Hey guys, this is Donnie. I want to go over a common scenario with no deposit offers and prepaid electricity. There's a common problem that most homeowners and people moving to apartments will have, and that is being asked for a large deposit. This is a very common issue. It faces most relocators. If you're moving to Dallas, or if you're just moving from your parents' home in Dallas and into an apartment or something like that, there's about 100% chance, it seems like anyway, that you're going to be asked for a deposit. And you need to get those lights turned on fast usually, and when you're asked for a deposit, that can really hold up that process. And chances are you've already paid your landlord $500, and then you're asked for another $500 to get your lights turned on, and that can just be a really frustrating ordeal. Well, this is more common than you think, and there is an easy solution. The biggest question I get asked about this is, so which electric company doesn't charge a deposit? I need to know this. Chances are if one provider asks you for a deposit, they're all going to ask you for a deposit because they all work from a credit check. So there's a credit score number, there's a magic number, and each provider kind of knows what that is based on their statistics that determine if they should charge you a deposit or not. And you get that deposit back at the end of the year, but usually what it is at a certain number, there's over a 50% default rate in customers not paying one of their electric bills somewhere down the way. They just default on a bill, and that leaves the provider hanging because the providers work on a small margin. So if you don't pay 1 month electric bill, that can eat up their entire profit for the course of a 12-month agreement. So, and they won't just break even, they'll probably lose out on the deal. They'll actually lose money. So if they didn't follow some kind of credit score criteria, even a little bit, and 25% of their customers defaulted or something like that, then they could be out of business fairly easily. What you can do, it used to not be this way, but there's now a lot of prepaid, no deposit, low deposit electric companies in the market now, and they don't run a credit check. A lot of times they'll use your smart meter because they can measure your actual electric usage. In the past, they had to estimate what that is, but now they can get it real time. And so instead of overpaying for a year and then them truing up the charges at the end of the year, when they find out what your historical data is, now they can measure that accurately minute by minute. And so it allows for these new no deposit plans to be cheaper and more accurate in what your electric usage is. And the only difference is you pay in advance instead of paying at the end of 30, 45 days like most people. You pay in advance. And after a month or two, it'll seem normal because you'll just be making a monthly bill payment as you would if you signed up with a traditional electric company that did ask you for that deposit. So within a month or two, it'll just seem like a normal situation. Now, at first, it'll seem like a deposit because it'll ask you for an upfront fee that applies to your usage you'll be using. But usually that fee is around $100, and that is applied to your electric usage you'll be using. And then you just once they discover how much you're using, then they ask you for a little bit more just based on your usage. And this prepayment continues until you decide to not use them anymore. This type of service it's an important service. A lot of people need it because a lot of people just don't want to pay a deposit. And think of it kind of like a payday loan type store. These stores operate by kind of like a bank. They're giving you a loan, but it's a higher interest rate. But the thing about it is there's not all this paperwork and credit checks and stuff that you have to go through. They find out if you're employed, and they're guaranteed your next paycheck. If you pay it on time, you don't pay the high interest rates, and it can be a really good, fast, quick way of getting you out of a bind. And that's kind of how I would say a prepaid electric company is. In the past, they were quite a bit more expensive than a traditional electric company, so your electric rate would be a lot more. And so that's the downside to this. Although lately, there's actually some competitive prepaid electric providers out there where the rate isn't that much. What you'll discover is some of them are still high, and they won't show you what their electric rate is anywhere. It won't be obvious. They'll just show you like the startup fee, like $100 to turn your lights on, that sort of thing, but you won't be able to see the rate very easily anywhere. And that type of company, what they're doing is they're kind of hiding the rate. They don't want you to know what the rate is because it probably is a lot. But sometimes that's just, there's not a lot of options, and so if it's this type of thing is good for short term, I would say. Use a prepaid electric company for 2-3 months. If the price isn't too ridiculously high, you can stay on it longer, but then at the same time try to save up for a deposit so you can shop around and compare and actually get on a cheaper electric rate. You may have to pay a deposit, but you're building a solid good customer reputation by putting down a deposit with a traditional electric company, paying your bill on time, and then in the future you won't have to be asked for deposits anymore. You'll build a history as a good paying electric utility customer. These are some hopefully these are some helpful tips on this no deposit situation. What that magic credit score number is, a lot of people want to know what that is, and it's not something any of the providers want the public to know, because if that number got out, then the providers they feel like they could be exploited in some way, and they also see it as kind of like a competitive advantage having that number hidden from other competitors and that sort of thing. So unfortunately I can't give you what that credit score number is, but I would assume, I've heard it's kind of high. So even though you think your credit may be good, according to the providers, they may still want some kind of deposit, even if just $100, $200. So anyway, that pretty much tells you about everything you could possibly want to know about prepaid electric companies and that sort of thing, and I'll provide some information if you would like to sign up with one of these companies. It's a real good way to get out of a fix if you're trying to avoid that large deposit. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you later.